Welcome to downtown Baton Rouge and another meeting of the Public Service Commission. A new year, January 2025. Let's open with a word of prayer, as we always do on our meetings. And I'll take that privilege as chairman today. Our Father, our God, thank you so much for all you do for us. Thank you for this wonderful state that we serve and for our beautiful country. And I will start out with a poem that honors you, Father. Little baby on the hay, soon there'll be another day when nails will pierce your hands and feet as you deliver our sins' defeat. Risen Jesus on the throne, we lift our prayers to you alone, for you're the gift that we receive the hour that our hearts believe. And our Father, our Creator, we thank you that you prepared a way for us to be with you in eternal life. But until now, be with us today as we do this meeting. Thank you that we can serve our people, and let us always remember you in all our plans and thoughts and our leadership. When we pray for that leadership and gift, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, Commissioner Scametta, lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start out with, I think the first introduction, I'd like to welcome seat to my left, John Paul Couson. And let me turn on all the mics here.
I have an announcement too, Mr. Chairman, when you're done.
John Paul, welcome to the crew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
My neighbor there, I live in Crowley, and he lives in Lafayette, so a lot of you guys are in trouble. We're going to give you a hard time.
We may see each other more than we like.
Amen.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you for welcoming me. I want to thank the commissioners for welcoming me. I want to thank the staff for preparing me, and many of the stakeholders for just letting me know what is in store. I want to thank District 2 for electing me, and I want to thank my family for letting me serve. So with that, let's get to work.
Amen. Amen. Okay, Commissioner Scametta.
Yeah, I want to both welcome J.P. Couson to the Public Service Commission. J.P. is obviously going to be a breath of fresh air. In his 2 terms in the House, he earned the reputation as a true conservative. His votes in the House were consistently pro-business and pro-family, which bodes well for the ratepayers of Louisiana, because JP will be a consumer champion here on the commission. So JP, I'm personally excited to have you here as another watchdog, and I don't just mean watching our buddy Foster, I mean watching out for the ratepayer and making sure that we are a pro-business state. So thank you for being here.
You're hired as my next consultant.
There you go.
Okay, Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to welcome Commissioner Couson, who I've had the privilege to hassle at the Capitol for some years, and I'll let you know I'll probably still do that here, just from a different post. So I want to welcome you. I look forward to working with you in a collaborative way to work towards a stronger electric system. I see, Mr. Chairman, the Acadiana region gained someone, so that I guess the Baton Rouge Capital region, I'm now solo by myself, but I'll still work with you, Commissioner Couson on that. While we welcome Commissioner Couson, I also want to welcome someone new to the District 3 office. As you can see, my technical assistant and policy director, Edward, is not here today. That is because his wife and him had their first child, Gellis West Yielding, or as we call him, Guy, was born on December 3rd at 6 pounds and 8 ounces. For all of you who know Edward, you know he loves to read. So it was the same day that the CCO Phase 2 report dropped. So he got a child and a big docket to read. So I want to wish Edward and Allie the best as they continue to maneuver with their new baby boy, Guy, and the entire Yielding family. Just for you all to know, Edward's brother also had his first child on December 30th as well. So the Yielding family brought in two young men into the family. So I'll give congratulations and welcomes to the entire Yielding family. And that's all my announcements, Mr. Chairman.
I had the privilege today to have welcome Mr. Campbell. Glad you made it, man. I had the privilege of having my staff here today. I like for them to stand up and put them on the spot. It's ladies and gentlemen, y'all stand. I got Callie Bates, Amy Abraham, and Clint Person. And of course, everybody knows Captain Eric Dupachan, yeah? Okay, the head of that staff. So welcome, y'all. Come. And we're glad to see Commissioner Campbell here. I'm glad. I know that it's a long trip from Shreveport. Hopefully there wasn't any ice on the road yet, huh, at the time? No ice, huh?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. All right. And Mr. Campbell, we're in the part about announcements. I know you've always been not short on words. So what's going on in Shreveport?
Well, what's going to go on is we're 22 degrees, 18-degree weather coming in first of the week. So last cold spot, we got out of it pretty good. So this time, we might have some trouble with some ice, and that is a problem.
All right, any other announcements?
We just have a couple of housekeeping related to the agenda. Of the 16 items, we have Exhibit 11 being deferred to next month. Exhibit 10 is pulled. And then we are going to move the two reports under Exhibit 14 and Exhibit 16 up after we handle the election of officers for the commission.
All right, so 14 will follow after
6.
exhibits 2 through 6.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And one other announcement, just to kind of piggyback on what Foster said, we're watching the models. Jessica's here, so I would see us likely being activated at GOSEP. Hopefully we don't deal with outages, but yeah, the models are hinting at some very, very cold weather next week with the possibility of frozen stuff, so just kind of keep that on your radar.
Well, we might get some green heads come down here in Louisiana, huh?
Let's hope for it. I'll be out there.
All right, since there's no other announcements, Francis, the chairman, has a motion to put before the 5 commissioners. It'll cover Exhibit 2 through number 6. And my motion says, I move that the positions of, for 2025, for the year 25, remain the same as last year, with the exception of nominating Commissioner Scametta as ERSC representative due to Commissioner Green's departure. So I'll make that in the form of a motion and covet a second.
I'll second.
It's seconded by Commissioner Lewis. And is there any discussion or objection to my motion? Hearing none, we're starting off with a great, smooth 2025 year. And I want to thank all of you. It's been my privilege to serve as chairman. I've been here 8 years. And many of you out in this crowd have tutored me and answered my calls. And like a redneck from Gina, I say, you've answered a lot of my redneck dumb questions, you know, and I'm working on it. I'm not near where I want to be, but with God's blessings, we'll continue to grow. This is going to be a great year, a lot of challenges, but I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate Mr. Lewis at my right hand and my new friend Couson at my left hand. And for Mr. Scametta and Mr. Campbell, same thanks to you, and I've really enjoyed working with you. And we're going to kick some butt in 25, okay? So moving on, we'll We'll go to Exhibit 14.
Yes, sir. So under Exhibit 14, we have two reports today. The first is the report from the Idaho National Labs Frontiers Collaboration on the Lance Report, filed in Commission Docket Number X 36987. And if you guys would come to the podium, just introduce yourselves before speaking, please. And there's a button on the micro, yes, sir. And then there's a button on the microphone, turn it green and you're hot.
Well, it's all about dockets, it's just.
I was told I didn't have to be sworn in, so I was joking with Lauren, that means I can lie. It's a pleasure to be here today and see all of you, and thanks for allowing us back into your hearing room to present the Lance Report to you. My name's Paul Shalander. I am on contract as a senior advisor with the Idaho National Lab, and have been working with my colleague Steve Allmeyer, who is actually the brains behind the Frontiers collaboration through INL. He's in the back of the room because he's wise and won't be joining me here unless I get in some deep trouble. So if you have serious technical questions, I would advise you to talk to the PhD with nuclear engineering background. He also has an MBA. He's got a couple of good jokes too, but I'd say talk to him out in the hallway. My background too also includes a long stint as a commissioner in the state of Idaho. I served 20 years as a commissioner in Idaho, had a chance to also be actively engaged in NARUC, and was president of NARUC before I left, and quickly left to go work with the Idaho National Lab because they were looking at the one resource that I saw as being perhaps the most challenging, but also the most promising as it relates to providing carbon-free baseload generation resources throughout the country. And as the nation's premier nuclear lab, the Idaho National Lab has a big task in front of it in terms of wanting to really deal with outreach. Because the key is, as we look at nuclear power and we look at advanced nuclear specifically, as we look down the road, and it's down the road, a lot of things have to happen. But if we wait until the technology is ready or the NRC is ready, we've missed our opportunity. So the whole goal behind this effort, the Lance effort, the Louisiana Advanced Nuclear Competitive Edge effort that we put together through a lot of the work from Commissioner Scrimetta to pull this together, was to help Louisiana through the Louisiana Public Service Commission to put together a framework that would, in essence, put Louisiana at the forefront to do the necessary capacity building now, to look at three basic pillars associated with nuclear technology and its future deployment. And that's to look at generation, supply chain, and value chain. A year ago, less than a year ago, we were in this very hearing room when we launched our first, call it a Nuclear 101. Many of you were here and really appreciate your support at that time, was to set out a baseline of facts as honest brokers, as honest as we can be, to lay out what the hurdles were, what the opportunities were, and then to start to bring together the necessary parties moving forward. So that first initial 101 was an excellent opportunity to, one, meet the right folks, simply put, and then take the next step. The next step happened in Metairie, Louisiana, where we brought together for 2 days of panels that we put together, scoping panels. And in those meetings, we brought in your utilities, which were on board, very helpful, putting together these panels, a lot of stakeholders, other state agencies, and brought in some vendors and designers in the nuclear space to really start to take a Louisiana-centric look at what advanced nuclear might mean from an energy-driven economic opportunity perspective for the state of Louisiana. That led to this report that in less than a year, because of the fact that you all worked very, very quickly, moved forward, brought the right people together. Oh, let me start over now. The line is closer. As we look at this, you have the Lance report in front of you, and there are a ton of recommendations with each one of those pillars. And I hope it's an easy read. I wrote it, so there's no big words in it, because my vocabulary is pretty thin. But as you look at it, it really is a guidepost to set up what I think could help Louisiana become a national leader in this space. And you have the ability, you're already an energy state. Now what's the next step look like? So as you look at those recommendations, and they're recommendations, there's no the word shall does not show up there. It's all, what do you want to do? So as you look at the recommendations that are there, it really is about the next step. And the next step is, how do you want to prioritize those things? Which are at the top of the list? And then, how do you want to fund those things? And how do you bring in other stakeholders within state government to be engaged? Some of those meetings have already started. Commissioner Skrmeta and I were in a meeting with the governor in December, and all of his cabinet was there. And they're looking at this report and saying it's a good starting point. That's what it is, though. It's a starting point. An opportunity now to figure out, what do you want to prioritize, what do you want to fund, and how do you want to get there? Because again, that capacity building needs to happen now. If you wait until this technology is ready to come off the shelves of Home Depot and Lowe's, you've waited too long. So this, I hope, lays out some guideposts moving forward. From a regulatory perspective, there are some items that are in the document itself that sort of lay out some opportunities for regulatory pre-approval, as a case in point, to make sure that utilities are made whole. You are in a unique position in Louisiana in which you actually price regulate almost every utility in the state. That's unique. You have the ability to also help assure your utilities that they'll get cost recovery. That's a big thing right now. I just got back from Hawaii from what I thought was a vacation, turned out to be a working thing. I met with their commission. They're dealing with wildfire. The impact that is having on that state as it relates to purchase power agreements moving forward isn't just on the utility. It's on those independent power producers as well. They're being downgraded. The opportunity now to help assure the utilities that they can get recovery as they start to explore and move down this path is extremely important. So I will come up for air now and say thank you for the opportunity to be here and present this. I'm willing to address any questions that you have. If they're difficult, I've got Steve Allmeyer back there, and I'll definitely bring him up here, but you need to swear him in. I've had dinner with him before.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And look, first off, I want to thank the governor because when we had our meeting with the governor, after looking at our report that you've crafted, looking at sort of this pathway that we begin to generate, the governor really looked at this and said that the Public Service Commission has identified the pathway, the way we have to move forward. And from this point forward, we're going to need the utilities to come forward and tell us where we need to go on resource planning. What do they see the pathway for this? Because we'll work with them, and we'll work with guys like you in the future when we start talking about regulatory, finance, the issues that we move forward. But and just adding a few things, look, I'm very proud of the work that the commission has done to engage stakeholders and interested parties in this matter, and to provide them with opportunities to, to hear from industry leaders that we met with and experts about the role of advanced nuclear plays in this driver for economic development for the future of energy supply in Louisiana. And the reason I mention about that is the more energy we have, the more industry and business development we're going to get in Louisiana. And the industrials are clamoring for net zero power. This is our pathway to net zero in combination with natural gas and nuclear. We get to net zero. Our products get the stamp of net zero on them for export. We're going to not just have products being exported, we're going to have demand for exported products. Plus, these new AI data processing facilities are going to be wanting to move here for that type of capacity because that's the demands they make. And much to the credit of Entergy and the way they've negotiated, and particularly the Meta project, these companies are going to self-fund these devices, which will take a great burden off of the ratepayers. But our staff worked well with other state agencies and with the governor's office, and we do appreciate the governor's interest and his support for these endeavors. Now, we've taken the first step by putting together this Lance report, but I do think it's important that we continue this relationship with all the stakeholders and interested parties and establish another technical conference as we move into this. And I've suggested we talk about the re-regulation concepts and on finance. I think that's going to be a critical aspect. And also work out with other agencies, including LED, Economic Development, Office of Energy, that's under a subpart of the governor's office, the DNR, the LSU Center for Energy Studies, which is going to add a curriculum in nuclear chemical engineering, and look at critical factors in taking the next step, because it is necessary not only to stay in the game, but Louisiana is effectively a leader in the nation now in looking at how we are going to implement new nuclear technology and nuclear power in the United States. Now, as for the LPSC, we seek to reap these benefits of how we've gotten this Lance framework developed, and I see it as essential to keep coordinating with stakeholders and interested parties. So let's maximize this energy-driven economic opportunity for Louisiana. Now, toward this objective, I think it's important for the next step is prioritizing the use of the cases identified in this framework that you've developed. And I asked the staff to, and particularly Lauren, who's at the spear point of this, to ask her to continue to explore and support the potential funding opportunities and partnerships that we can advance on this and move to the development of high-priority use cases that'll help Louisiana become and continue to be a national leader in the area of advanced nuclear energy and deployment, and for you to engage with not only the investor-owned utilities who have expressed sincere interest in how we're going to move forward on this, but also with some co-ops have expressed an interest in this, depending on how the finance models come into place, and also how we work with our own State Department of the Military because of their interest in some of the micronuclear technology for the military bases, and also how we look with our federal contingent on the Department of Defense on what they want to do with nuclear in Louisiana for the bases here. But other than that, Paul, I want to thank you and Dr. Omeyer for all your hard work, and thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's been a privilege to be a part of this. I have gained an enormous amount of respect for the Louisiana Public Service Commission, and quite honestly, I think I know more about the energy landscape in Louisiana than I do in my own home state now. It has been a pleasure. Thank you. And you mentioned Lauren and Brandon. Your staff is fantastic.
I left Brandon out of it.
Thank you, Paul. No.
Commissioner Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul, good to see you, and thank you so much for all your work on the Lance report. It was actually an easy read, I will tell you, so you did well there, my friend. I'm really kind of interested in what you've undercover, and I guess one of the questions, kind of big picture that I'm thinking about is the importance, and I think you mentioned it as well as Commissioner Skrmeta mentioned it about really utilizing the integrated resource planning process as a way to evaluate this. I mean, I think when we get to cost recovery, I think that's a place where we can get ahead of the game. And so I just kind of want you to speak, if you can, from what you see here, from what we should be doing in our integrated resource plans, but what you're kind of seeing broadly across the country as we evaluate nuclear as an option for net zero generation.
Commissioner, thank you for the question, and I saw that Larry Hand walked up as you were saying that, and what I will say is that what Entergy has done with the Louisiana Public Service Commission in terms of putting out that they intend to take a deeper dive in their integrated resource planning process to look at nuclear is a tremendous first step. As I look at the national landscape, there are states that are moving in positive directions in this arena. One of them most recently that I took a deeper look into is North Carolina. And North Carolina looked specifically at a regulatory pre-approval as it related to the integrated resource planning for Duke Energy. And in that, they took a first step. The first year, they said, look, we're going to give you pre-approval for several $1 million to begin to explore the path. And in the Lance report, we have paths that if you wanted to say this is a priority, you could take a look at what North Carolina did. And then Duke came back a year later and said, here's what we think, and then they got regulatory pre-approval to move forward up to a certain dollar amount. Now, it's not cheap. It's expensive, but the dividends that it could pay back to the broader group of customers is ultimately what you're about. And again, the ability to drive from an energy-driven economic opportunity is the entire framework that is in front of you now is what does this mean in terms of bringing in more jobs, more business and industry? And there has to be an investment. And I think North Carolina is one example. There are other states too that have moved in different directions, and there are a lot of examples out there. One of the things that's a recommendation within this report is to take a deeper dive of what the states are doing. The Nuclear Energy Institute, which was a tremendous stakeholder in this process, actually is a good resource to begin to look at what some of those other states are looking at doing. I know that Texas has done some work, and I also know that Kentucky is about ready to launch into something very similar to what you've already accomplished. I would also recommend that to the extent you can be engaged with NARUC is to be the leaders there. Take the opportunity. This is not a partisan issue. This is all about electrons, and electrons do not have R's or D's tattooed to them. It is about serving customers. So at the end of the day, I think Louisiana is positioned very, very well to help drive the cart forward. And I would encourage you to take every opportunity you can to do that. I know you asked me a yes or no question, and I just rambled
Paul.
on for a day.
Paul, I don't give yes or no answers either, so I understand that. But just one last question, I think, for you, that for those watching. I know one of the challenges, and I'll definitely ask Mr. Ham this, about nuclear that we've heard from people is just the cost factor. So could you walk through just throughout the Lance report, what are some of those suggestions about reining in the cost? I mean, I know we look and people are examining what we saw, the cost overruns at Vogtle and for Georgia Power, and so that I think those are some of the concerns we've heard about nuclear. But because of this work, I would love you to kind of address broadly what you see in terms of cost mechanisms around SMRs or more nuclear facilities across the generation mix.
Cost is always a concern, and affordability has to be a concern. I mean, that's what you all are about. And it's the same with the utilities. It's all about what's the next best resource that we can put in play. And you can only get financing for those things you can build tomorrow. So when you start to talk about cost with nuclear, that's always going to be an issue. And when you look at these big public works projects like Vogtle, they are challenging. If you want examples of ways in which state regulatory entities have addressed it, I would look to the Georgia Commission. The current president of NARUC, Tricia Pridemore, I love her last name, more pride. She has, with the Georgia Commission, really, they stuck to it. We've all seen projects go under, and the impact that has as a stranded investment, if those costs still have to be recovered without a single electron being produced. They held to it, they kept everybody engaged, and as they moved through that project, the commission was actively, I won't say partner, but actively ensuring that step by step they knew what was happening, so that when challenges emerged, they were monitoring it. Now, there are different reactor sizes and types. So you've got the huge gigawatt scale, of which you have 2 reactors in the state of Louisiana today. And now you're looking at advanced technologies that are coming in that are down to the microreactor nuclear battery space. Obviously, the smaller ones are going to have less risk. But I think the key to all this is to, one, recognize, and you do, your responsibility in terms of affordability, but then to put the seed money in place so that the people that know what they're doing, and it's not me, you've got these electricity factories, they're called utilities. Make sure that they have the tools they need to move forward and to advise you appropriately so that you can call the balls and strikes. It's a challenge, but it's one worth pursuing. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity to have been involved in this space. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Paul, and I look forward. I know over my 2 years, I've had the pleasure of working with you and, of course, seeing you multiple times at NARUC, so I look forward to continuing these conversations and the work with you. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Paul, I have a few constituent questions for you to answer. Keep it.
Yes, this is the true color of my hair.
Yeah. I like the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, you know, and when I look in the mirror, avoided cost on average, and we got your energy here, avoided cost on average versus what does nuclear energy. What's the, because it is a better value, it's a lesser cost for, to generate with nuclear, isn't that right?
And good morning, Commissioners.
Larry
Larry
Hand,
Hand, on
okay.
behalf of Entergy Louisiana. It's a tough question to answer, right? So a combined cycle combustion turbine unit or, one-on-one, two-on-one, that's kind of what we've used most recently deployed. It's relatively economic in terms of the installed cost of relative to nuclear, right? Just the capital you deploy to build a combined cycle unit, it moves around, but just for an example, we built in your area, Lake Charles Power Station, 980 megawatt combined cycle unit. We came in probably less than $1,000 per kW. Keep in mind that was 5 years ago we completed it. A new nuclear unit, depending on the size, the technology, it's going to be more like $10,000 a kW. So the upfront capital cost of nuclear, Georgia Power is a good example of it. It's enormous. Hopefully small modular reactors is better, but once you get there, once you deploy that technology, the fuel cost, that's where the value comes in, the lack of emissions, the fuel cost. Nuclear fuel, probably on a dollar per megawatt hour basis, is about less than $10 a megawatt hour. If you think about a combined cycle unit, if gas is $3, the fuel for a megawatt hour is probably $18, $19 a megawatt hour. So the fuel savings, that's the long-term value proposition, the lack of emissions for nuclear, but the upfront capital cost is very
I think that was a lot further up than my KISS method. All right, Paul, another question. What's the size, SMR, that's small modular reactors, is that right, for the public unknowing what SMR is? Okay.
Yes.
What is the average size of would you predict for megawatt output of a small modular reactor? How many megawatts?
So SMRs are typically, if you look at a natural gas combined combustion turbine, in that range. So you're looking at between normally 300 to 600 megawatts is considered small modular, but anything above 50 megawatts is by definition considered small modular. Below that, you get into the microreactor space and the nuclear batteries, which can be anywhere from 1 megawatt up to 50 to fall within that definition. The one thing that I would like to add, hopefully...
No, wait, that's keep it simple, okay.
Oh, no. I
How
wanted
many-
to add one thing, if I could, just to what Mr. Hand said. The simplest way that I could put it, and it's a drum that I beat, is that from a regulatory perspective, we need to, as we look at any advanced technology that we're looking as a generation resource, whether it's nuclear or anything else, is we need to start moving away from just unit cost per kilowatt and start looking at whole system benefit. Because when you're really looking at the whole system benefit, you're starting
That's
to
what we
identify.
do, that's our job, that's what we do.
And that's the plus.
What would you estimate if you had a small nuclear reactor to install in Louisiana in the future? About how many megawatts do you think that output would be? Would just take a shoot from the hip guess, 200, 300 megawatts?
It depends on your needs. It depends on load growth. I mean, we're seeing so much activity in relationship to load growth across the country, whether it's for
Okay.
AI, data centers. It really depends. It's case by case. And again, you've got experts here that deal with that on a daily basis.
Okay. So we have 2 nuclear reactors in Louisiana, and we've really benefited from them. Would you speculate that if we built a SMR, would it be installed on one of those 2 locations? So would that be the proper way to do it?
Chairman Francis, one of the recommendations here is to look at uprating your existing facilities and also to look at co-locating other facilities there. Now, what size? Again, it's going to depend on what your load growth projections are. But if you've got sites that are already there, you've already got issues related to dealing with the fuel and the spent fuel, you're in a much better position because you've already got the guns, guards, and gates.
I know we're doing a lot of research and working on the technology. How long do you think it would be before we would know, we would have the plan together where we could build one of these and install one in Louisiana? Would it be 5 years, 10 years?
From what I hear from different vendors and designers, and everything is subject to check and subject to reality. They say if you put in an order today, within 5 to 6 years, you can be in a position to deliver power. I think what's happened with the Vogtle scenario, where we've actually built something that is delivering power, we hadn't built anything in 30 years, 3 decades without any real commercial activity. We're starting to get to the whole issue of price, which is the first of a kind is always expensive. It's when you get 6, 7 contracts down the road and you start to get to that nth of a kind price where it makes more sense financially. And when I say cents, I mean dollars and cents. And so it really is all dependent on first movers and next movers. So if you want to be a first mover or next mover, you can help move the ball. There's a lot that needs to happen at the federal level as well, from the NRC as well as congressional action. And some of that is bullet pointed within this Lance report. It really is up to you to see where you want to go.
Really? All right. Okay. All right. Well, thank y'all for, any other questions from anybody? Thank you for coming.
And Commissioner, I owed a brief update, and happy to answer questions, but as part of this Lance initiative, we participated, followed up. One of the things we filed at the commission probably in April maybe of last year was kind of setting forth our expectation for nuclear. And as Commissioner Lewis said, we want to incorporate new nuclear as in our next IRP cycle, kind of flesh out the costs, all the things we need to start working on. But one of the things we are currently working on is technology assessments. You talked about small modular reactors, what they are. So we committed to and are in the process of doing more detailed, comprehensive technology assessments of all of the new nuclear technologies that we think could be suitable for Louisiana. So we're looking at, and frankly, we're probably not going to go down the route of, and I don't want to prejudge it, but we're not going to go down the route of building an AP1000 generator like Georgia Power did. They're 1,100 megawatts. I think they came in at, they built 2 of them. They came in at $35 billion. That's $35 billion. If you added up the size of Entergy Louisiana, CLECO, SWEPCO, I don't think our, rate base is that big. So we're looking more small modular reactors for a few reasons. One is we think the cost will be better. And also, when you cite a generator of that size, and we have Waterford 3 is 1,100 megawatts, Riverbend is close to 1,000 megawatts. When you have a large generator like that, you're concentrating risk. So when they have a planned outage for refueling every 18 months or every 24 months, depending on the technology, you lose that generator. And so if you do small modular reactors, you lower that outage duration, that risk. And so that's where we're focusing. So the technology assessment, we're trying to wrap that up in the next month or 2. And then we're also layering on top of that site assessment. So looking at specific sites in Louisiana where we may want to deploy those generators and then come up with site-specific cost estimates. And that's the $1 million question, or the $1 billion question. How much will this cost? And we're working to get there. But as Paul said, when we get that before the commission, we need to take steps now as a utility and as a regulator. We need to work in partnership and figure out how can we make this work for Louisiana. I'll be frank. I mean, we have Entergy Louisiana. We have 1.1 million customers across the state. That we're a sizable utility, but we're not Georgia Power. We're not of that size where we can just go build something like that. So we're looking at ways to partner. We need to partner with you as our regulator. Be very transparent. What steps we need to take, what it's going to cost, and start taking those steps. But we also need to leverage partnerships with industrial customers, large users who want the nuclear attributes. They're willing to pay some amount of money to get the emission-free attributes, and we can come up with a partnership where we come to the commission and say, a new nuclear plant is going to cost X. We have a customer who's willing to pay, I'm making up a number, $40 a megawatt hour to get the attributes. And so that will lower the burden on the rest of our customers. And hopefully between, any federal funding, partnerships with customers and the commission, we can come up with what is an attractive value proposition for a new nuclear plant. And the thought of we're just going to build it and make all our customers pay for it, that's not going to be a good solution for any of us. And so we're looking at those partnership opportunities. But the most important partnership will be with you, the regulator, because it's a long process. The licensing, all those things need to take place. We need to come get certification, have periodic reporting about how it's going. But the first energy from a new nuclear plant in Louisiana, if we get there, is, it's a decade away, because the licensing with the NRC and other things that need to take place, the technologies, they're proven. Like, I'm thinking about Gen 3+ reactors, not Gen 4, which is when you use molten salt and things like that. Just light water reactors, smaller, it's proven. But those folks are working through, as Paul said, the first one's going to be very expensive. That first of kind is very expensive. But once they get the licensing from the NRC, the designs, the manufacturing, it gets better. So we just need to be fully, transparent and aligned as we move down those steps. And so we're taking those steps now, and the estimating space will file a report. I hope a detailed report with these cost estimates, early, second quarter of this year. And our next IRP cycle, I believe, kicks off in October of this year. So you will see this be fully, more fully fleshed out in that process. But we look forward to, continue to provide information and partnering with the commission to advance, nuclear in Louisiana. And we are not, we have very significant, we're blessed as a state to have a very significant economic opportunity before us in terms of data centers that want to come here, other industry. A lot of folks around the world like what you guys have done. And Commissioner Couson, you can't take credit yet, but, you can take it if you want. But what's been the foundation that's been laid, it's great. And I think the decisions going forward is, how do we keep that playing field looking attractive to the world who wants to come here? And people are fighting one another to get here as quickly as they can, to get the reliability, the rates we have. And we want to keep pushing that forward. But also, that means we can't just say, we're going to do nuclear, or I'm just going to do solar. It's all of the above. It's wind, it's solar, it's gas. We need to look at every opportunity, every option we have to bring affordable, reliable power to our current customers, but also the customers, industries that want to locate here and invest here. And I think when we grow as a state with those new customers, and we're really proud of the Meta data center announcement, when you grow sales for utility, that means you have the ability to lower the cost for all customers. When you grow that denominator, it lowers the cost for all, and that's a really exciting opportunity for us. But it's going to take a lot of work with the utilities and you guys as regulators to get there.
Well, just nuclear is still carbon free, isn't it?
Last I checked.
And we're getting a lot of requests from all our industry in Louisiana, which is almost half of our electric demand to address the carbon issue. So I guess we'll have a lot of the industrial people working with us, prodding us to work the IRP system. And what's the length of your IRP? How many years are your?
I mean, the process, or like how the planning horizon? The planning horizon will look out 20 years in the future, try to predict our load and the resources we serve it. But the
What
actual.
are you predicting? How many years out are you predicting to have your nuclear expansion?
I mean, like I said, it's 10 years at the earliest is when, if you started really making decisions today, making investments today, it's a 10-year.
That's what I'd call long-range planning. Huh?
It is, and it's a challenge, because the winds can change. When we in 2007, when gas prices, before the shale revolution, gas prices were $10, $12. The world thought that natural gas was in perpetual decline, and gas prices went very high. So we all, like Georgia Power, South Carolina, people started moving toward new nuclear. We did that too, but we stopped when prices changed. And I don't know how the future is going to look, but I know in a 10-year build cycle for nuclear, things are going to change. You know, gas can go up, go down, but we need to be lockstep, transparent, and aligned as we move forward, because you need to take steps now, but you can't just start and forget about the changing dynamics. So it's a challenging endeavor. We're excited about the opportunity because carbon-free energy, solar is great when the sun's shining. You know, wind is great when the wind's blowing. But nuclear energy is one of the few things that you can count on 24/7, baseload, carbon-free energy. It's what industry needs. It's what all of our customers need. And so we need to get there. We just need to do it in a responsible way and an affordable way for our customers.
Okay. Listen, thank y'all for coming. Appreciate your comments. Okay, we up to Exhibit 7 now, is that
Yeah,
right?
we're gonna do Exhibit 16.
I'm sorry, okay.
So
16, okay.
Exhibit 16 is undocketed. It's a discussion and possible vote to intervene in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Texas suit by the state of Texas, state of Utah, and Last Energy, Inc. versus reactors and microreactors are not utilization facilities under the Atomic Energy Act. Both Texas and Utah have recently announced their interest in promoting the development of advanced nuclear technology. And as we just discussed, the commission opened docket number X 36987 to assess the development of advanced nuclear power technology here in the state. Given the commission's interest in advancing nuclear technology and the potential of this complaint to make any permitting or applications to build such technology in the United States more efficient, it would benefit the commission to intervene in the above referenced lawsuit to show support. Staff recommends that the commission authorize staff to take whatever means necessary, including hiring outside counsel, should that be necessary, to intervene in the state of Texas, state of Utah, and Last Energy's complaint against the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to show support for the lawsuit.
Mr. Chairman, my motion is to support the staff recommendation to do the intervention on whatever basis staff sees fit.
It'd be, it's a motion by Commissioner Scametta, seconded by Commissioner Crusoe, and we got a question from Commissioner Lewis, or comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no plans to object, but for the record, Mr. Fry, can you kind of explain the two issues that are at hand in this lawsuit and as it pertains to the question that we're looking at?
Sure. So this is the petition. It's about 76 pages. I know you read it, and I've read it a couple of times. It's actually pretty interesting. You learn terms like millisievert. Did I say that right, Dr. Allmeyer? I did. Okay. It's interesting technology, but essentially Texas and Utah have two claims. The first is, as Catherine described it, seeking the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to modify the permitting rules for small modular reactors, saying that the existing rules are too onerous and are based on a flawed reading of the statute. I think that's where we would be in line with them. The second is both Texas and Utah have universities that have reactors for teaching/research purposes. I think they're at the University of Texas, Texas A&M, and University of Utah, and it's seeking a declaratory ruling that those reactors should not be subject to the NRC permitting requirements. I'm not aware of any reactors here that would qualify there, so I think our focus would be more on that first claim, looking to have the NRC rewrite the rules as they apply it to SMRs.
Great, thank you. And I know that just a few months ago, Congress passed the ADVANCE Act that was requesting the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to actually look at this issue. Are we planning within this intervention to follow that docketed proceeding as it composed and put in comments to NRC that is effectively doing the same thing the lawsuit's requiring?
Yes, I think it goes hand in hand, as essentially that's the basis of that first claim, is for them to rewrite the rules, so, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fry, whenever you talk about SMRs, I was always assuming that's nuclear. It could be any kind of generator, right?
Well, no, I think when we're saying SMRs in this context, we're talking small micro reactors, so that's the one you were talking to.
Nuclear.
Yes.
Nuclear. Okay, all right, good. Okay. I appreciate Commissioner Scametta having such a passion for the nuclear, and as far as I'm concerned, he's our in-house guy until we learn different. So thanks to Scametta for that work, okay? All right, where are we at now?
We can move on to exhibit number 7.
7, okay.
Exhibit number 7 is docket number R31106. It's the Commission's rulemaking to study the possible development of financial incentives for the promotion of energy efficiency by jurisdictional electric and gas utilities. It's a discussion and possible vote to retain an engineer for District 1. The Commission adopted a statewide energy efficiency program, which was memorialized in General Order dated February 9th, 2024, corrected. The statewide program is set to begin on January 1st of 2026, with 2025 being a transition year that maintains the utilities' quick start programs as well as the Commission's public entity programs. Pursuant to the Commission's General Order dated December 2nd of 2021, each Commissioner can nominate a qualified engineering firm to provide professional services for each district for the political subdivision energy efficiency program, subject to the Commission's confirmation, vote, and approval. Commissioner Skrmetta nominates Nathan Nunez of Linfield Hunter & Nunez to serve as the engineering firm for District 1 for 2025. Based on the Commission's General Order and the allocation of political subdivision portion of the energy efficiency program to District 1, Linfield Hunter & Nunez's budget to provide engineering services to District 1 shall not exceed $23,936.35. Staff recommends that the Commission approve Commissioner Skrmetta's nomination for District 1 with the 2025 political subdivision energy efficiency program for a total budget not to exceed of $23,936.35.
I'll move, we should accept that bid.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Any discussion, comments? Hearing none, number 7 is approved.
Exhibit number 8 is similar to exhibit number 7. It's the same docket number R31106. It's the Commission's rulemaking to study energy efficiency. This is a discussion and possible vote to retain an engineer for District 4. Similar to last exhibit, pursuant to the Commission's General Order of December 2nd of 2021, each Commissioner can nominate a qualified engineering firm to provide professional services for their district for the political subdivision energy efficiency program. Chairman Francis nominates D. Hicks Consulting to serve as the engineering firm for District 4 for the year of 2025. And based on the allocation of political subdivision portion of the energy efficiency program to District 4, D. Hicks Consulting's budget to provide engineering services to District 4 shall not exceed $29,592.63. Staff recommends that the Commission approve Chairman Francis's nomination of D. Hicks Consulting for a budget not to exceed of $29,592.63.
Make a motion to adopt the staff's recommendation.
Just for the record, can you say it one more time? Yeah, there we go.
Make a motion to adopt the staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
A motion by Commissioner Kutzon and seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, number 8's passed.
Exhibit number 9 is docket number S36267. This is 1803 Electric Cooperative, Beauregard Electric Cooperative, Claiborne Electric Cooperative, Northeast South Louisiana Electric Cooperative, and Washington St. Tammany's petition for approval of letter of non-opposition for 1803 to establish a revolving line of credit and for supporting guarantees by member cooperatives. It's a discussion and possible vote to amend order number S36267. On August 9th of 2022, the Commission issued Order S36267, which expressed the Commission's non-opposition for 1803's request to establish a revolving line of credit and for supporting guarantees by its member cooperatives. 1803 was allowed to establish this credit facility in the amount of $75 million with National Rural Utilities Cooperative Finance Corporation, with the facility being secured by pledging all assets as collateral and by providing a guarantee for each member cooperative to support their proportional share. The term of the credit facility was for 3 years. Ordering paragraph of order number S36267 requires 1803 and the member cooperatives to review and approve by the Commission for any significant changes in the credit facility. On January 2nd of 2025, 1803 filed correspondence into the record seeking an amendment to that order just to extend the term of the credit facility for an additional 3 years, with all other terms and conditions remaining the same. Audit staff reviewed the correspondence and agrees that it should be extended for an additional 3 years. Audit staff also notes that 1803 is currently undergoing additional tariff reviews and revisions in docket number U37212, which would ensure they continue to recover revenue sufficient to cover its current operational expenses and service this debt. Staff recommends that the Commission amend order number S36267 to extend the term of the credit facility for an additional 3-year term.
I'll make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation on Exhibit 9.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Kutzon. Any discussion or objection? Hearing none, number 9 passed.
Exhibit number 10 is pulled. Exhibit number 11 is deferred. So the next exhibit item we have is exhibit number 12.
What did you say about 10?
It's pulled. Exhibit number 12 is docket number U37442. It's Entergy Louisiana's application for approval of quantification and treatment of costs incurred associated with the Commission Special Orders number 22-2020, 28-2020, 43-2020, and 44-2020. It's a discussion and possible vote to retain an outside consultant. Staff issued RFP 2411 seeking an outside consultant. However, no bids were received. Since no bids were received through the RFP process, staff solicited Hinder Ridge Consulting, given the company's knowledge and experience with not only Entergy, but also with prudence reviews of Entergy's request for cost recovery. In response to staff solicitation, Henderson Ridge submitted a total proposal of $64,600. Staff recommends that the Commission retain Henderson Ridge Consulting for $62,400 in fees and $2,200 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $64,600.
Make a motion to accept this bid.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cusson. Is there any discussion, objection? Hearing none, number 12 is passed.
Exhibit number 13 is docket number U37468. This is Entergy's application for cost recovery associated with Hurricane Francine. It's a discussion and possible vote to retain an outside consultant. Staff issued RFP 2412 seeking an outside consultant, and one qualified bid was received. It was from Henderson Ridge Consulting, and $184,400 in fees and $4,200 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $188,600. And staff makes no recommendation as the sole bidder is qualified.
Make a motion that we accept this bid from Henderson Ridge Consulting.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Any discussion, objection? Hearing none, it's passed.
We have one more item under Exhibit 14. It is a discussion and possible vote to ratify interventions of the Commission in RTO-related or other FERC proceedings pursuant to the scope of work approved in connection with the retention of stone pigment in UPC at the February 2021 B&E for MISO, SPP, and ERSC participation, and due to short deadlines allowed for these interventions, if advanced Commission approval is not possible, the Executive Secretary, on the recommendation of Stone Pigment or UPC, may authorize the initial interventions, comments, or protests subject to a ratification. Interventions were filed on behalf of the Commission for the purpose of monitoring issues related to MISO events in FERC docket number ER 25-565, ER 25-593, and ER 25-594. Staff recommends that the Commission ratify these actions.
I move to ratify staff's interventions.
We have a second.
I'll second.
A second by Commissioner Campbell. Any discussion? Hearing none, it's passed.
And exhibit number 15 is similar to exhibit number 7 and 8 earlier. This is docket number R31106. It's the Commission's rulemaking to study the possible development for energy efficiency. It's discussion and possible vote to retain an engineer for District 2. This is at the request of Commissioner Cusson. Pursuant to the Commission's general order dated December 2nd of 2021, each Commissioner can nominate a qualified engineering firm to provide professional services for their district, subject to confirmation and approval and vote. Commissioner Cusson nominates D. Hicks Consulting to serve as the engineering firm for District 2 for 2025, and based on the Commission's general order and the allocation of political subdivision portion of the Energy Efficiency Program to District 2, D. Hicks Consulting's budget to provide these services shall not exceed $17,830.11. Pursuant to the Commission's general order, staff recommends that the Commission approve Commissioner Cusson's nomination of D. Hicks Consulting for a total budget not to exceed of $17,830.11.
A motion to accept Commissioner Cusson's request.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lewis.
Quick question. What was the number you gave just now? Because my exhibit was different. What did you say was the total not to exceed?
$17,830.11.
Okay, thank you.
Right number? All right. Okay, it passed, all right? It's passed.
That's all the agenda we have today.
What?
That's it.
It's not but 10:20. Okay, Mr. Campbell, Commissioner Campbell. What's that?
We didn't need anything? No, he's good.
Well, I guess we could,
We do need a motion to
we need a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn from
Yes, sir.
someone. Huh?
I'm going to move to adjourn in my first meeting.
And I'll second it, Chairman. It's over.